Hi, the story I'm going to read right now is called Two Bad Ants, and it is by Chris Van Allsburg. He also wrote the book Jumanji. You might have read that book or seen that movie. Anyway, this is a story called Two Bad Ants, and it is about two bad ants. The news traveled swiftly through the tunnels of the ant world. A scout had returned with a remarkable discovery, a beautiful, sparkling crystal. When the scout presented the crystal to the ant queen, she took a small bite, then she quickly ate the entire thing. She deemed it the most delicious food she had ever tasted. Nothing could make her happier than to have more, much more. The ants understood. They were eager to gather more crystals because the queen was the mother of them all. Her happiness made the whole ant nest a happy place. There's the queen mother ant. It was late in the day when they departed. Long shadows stretched over the entrance to the ant kingdom. One by one, the insects climbed out, following the scout, who had made it clear there were many crystals where the first had been found, but the journey was long and dangerous. They're walking through, it looks like a forest, but it's just grass, really. They marched into the woods, which was grass, that surrounded their underground home. Dusk turned to twilight, twilight to night. The path they followed twisted and turned, every bend leading them deeper and deeper into the dark forest. More than once, the line of ants stopped and anxiously listened for the sounds of hungry spiders, but all they heard was the call of crickets. Dew formed on the leaves above. Without warning, huge cold drops fell on the marching ants. At the edge of the forest stood a mountain. The ants looked up and could not see its peak. It seemed to reach right to the heavens, but they did not stop. Up and up the side, they climbed higher and higher. What does that mountain look like? It's brick, isn't it? It's a brick wall of a house. The wind whistled through the cracks of the mountain's face. The ants could feel its force bending their delicate antennae. Their legs grew weak as they struggled upward. At last, they reached a ledge and crawled through a narrow tunnel. When the ants came out of the tunnel, they found themselves in a strange world. Smells they had known all their lives, the smells of dirt and grass, had vanished. There was no more wind, and most puzzling of all, it seemed that the sky was gone. So here is the tunnel. It's a window, isn't it? Looks like they're climbing into someone's kitchen. They crossed smooth, shiny surfaces, then followed the scout up a glassy, curved wall. They had reached their goal. From the top of the wall, they looked below to a sea of crystals. One by one, the ants climbed down into the sparkling treasure. Here's a picture of them following the scout. Quickly, they each chose a crystal, then turned to start the journey home. There was something about this unnatural place that made the ants nervous. In fact, they left in such a hurry that not one of them noticed the two small ants that had stayed behind. "Why go back?" one asked the other. "This place may not feel like home, but look at all these crystals." "You're right," said the other. "We could stay here and eat this tasty treasure every day forever." So the two ants ate crystal after crystal until they were too full to move and they fell asleep. Do you guys know what that crystal is? It's sugar. See, that's a big sugar bowl right there. It's actually a regular sized sugar bowl, but to the ants, it's really, really big. Daylight came. The sleeping ants were unaware of changes taking place in their newfound home. A giant silver scoop hovered above them, then plunged deep into the crystals. It scooped up both ants and crystals and carried them high into the air. What is that silver scoop? It's a spoon. The ants ants were wide awake when the scoop turned, dropping them from a frightening height. They tumbled through space in a shower of crystals and fell into a boiling brown lake. Then the giant scoop stirred violently back and forth. Crushing waves fell over the ants. They pedaled hard to keep above water, but the scoop kept spinning the hot brown liquid. Around and around it went. They both held their breath and finally bobbed to the surface, gasping for air and spitting out mouthfuls of that hot, bitter, horrible liquid. All right, can anyone guess what the hot, brown, bitter liquid is? It's coffee. It's a cup of coffee because some people put scoops of sugar in their coffee, and it is hot and it is bitter. Then the lake tilted and began to empty into a cave. The ants could hear rushing water and felt themselves being pulled toward the pitch-black hole. Suddenly the cave disappeared and the lake became calm. The ants swam to the shore and found that the lake had steep sides. Oh my goodness, look, they almost went into the cave. What is that cave? It's somebody's mouth. They almost got eaten. They hurried down the walls that held back the lake. They were looking for a place to hide. Close by, they found a huge round disc with holes inside that could neatly hide them. Uh-oh, I wonder what the disc is. I wonder what that disc is. Ooh, but as soon as they climbed inside, their hiding place was lifted, tilted, and lowered into a dark space. When the ants climbed out of the holes, they were surrounded by a strange red glow. It seemed to them that every second the temperature was rising. So the holes were bread. They climbed into some holes in bread, and then it was put into a toaster. Oh my goodness. It became so unbearably hot that they thought they would soon be cooked. But suddenly the disc they were standing on rocketed upward, and the two hot ants went flying up through the air. Oh, the poor ants. They landed on what seemed to be a fountain, a waterfall pouring from a silver tube. Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water, so they climbed along the tube. As they got closer to the rushing water, the ants felt a cool spray. At first it felt wonderful, but the current was too strong. What is that? It's the faucet on someone's kitchen sink. The tiny insects were pulled off the fountain and plunged down into a wet, dark chamber. They landed on half-eaten fruit and other soggy things. Suddenly, the air began to spin and was filled with loud, frightening sounds. The ants were caught in a whirling storm of shredded food and stinging rain. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the noise and spinning stopped. Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out. What did they get washed into from the faucet? Yeah, a dishwasher disposal. They're lucky they weren't chopped up. In daylight, once again, they raced through puddles and up a smooth wall. In the distance, they saw something comforting. Two long, narrow holes that reminded them of home. They climbed into the dark openings. What is it? Yeah, it's an outlet. Is that safe? No, an outlet is not safe. There was no safety inside those holes. A strange force passed through the wet ants. They were stunned senseless and blown out of the holes. When they landed, the tiny insects were too exhausted to go on. They crawled into a dark corner and fell fast asleep. Night had returned when the battered ants awoke to a wonderful, familiar sound, the footsteps of their fellow insects returning for more crystals. The two ants slipped quietly to the end of the line. They climbed the glassy wall and once again stood among the treasure. But this time, they each chose one single crystal and followed their friends home. Standing at the edge of their ant hole, the two ants listened to the wonderful sounds of their home below. They knew that the mother ant would be very happy to have these wonderful crystals. This was home, this was their family, and this was where they were meant to be. Isn't that a fun story? I like it because it's a story that shows perspective, and perspective is a big word, but it basically means that the way we see something is very different than the way the ants see something. So to us, sugar crystal is tiny and just barely like even a taste, but to them it's this huge, amazing treasure. Anyway, hope you like that book. Bye.